His birth name was Carlo Peduli. He was a two-time Olympian in swimming and the inaugural Italian to complete 100 meters in under 1 minute. He secured a degree in jurisprudence. His linguistic abilities extended to 6 different tongues. He penned musical compositions for RCA Records. He was instrumental in constructing roadways within the dense jungles of Venezuela. He established an aviation company that continues to operate to this day. He held ownership of 12 distinct patents. He accumulated more than 2,000 hours of flight time as a professional aviator. And then, almost as an afterthought, he ascended to become one of the most cherished cinematic personalities in European history at the age of 38, a turn of events prompted by another performer sustaining a foot injury the day prior to principal photography commencing. His professional moniker was inspired by his preferred brew and his admired performer, Budweiser and Spencer Tracy. His signature action involved an open-handed strike so recognizable that a video game was directly named in its honor. He starred in over 70 motion pictures, the majority in collaboration with a lanky, cerulean-eyed compatriot named Terence Hill, and together they forged one of the most celebrated duos in cinematic annals. Their renown in a significant portion of Europe dwarfed that of Butch Cassidy and the Sundance Kid, yet they remained largely obscure in the United States. Upon his passing in Rome on June 27, 2016, his final utterance was "Grazie," meaning "thank you." He had reached the age of 86. And if you experienced your formative years anywhere in Europe or South America between 1970 and 1990, you are likely already exhibiting a smile simply by the mention of his name. The most astonishing aspect is that acting was arguably his 5th professional pursuit, and not even the most captivating one. These are the documented accounts. Let us commence. Number 1. The boy whose lineage was bereft of all possessions due to the aerial bombardment of Naples. On October 31, 1929, Carlo Peduli entered the world in the Santa Lucia district of Naples, Italy. His progenitors, Alejandro Peduli and Rosa Facchetti, hailed originally from Lombardy in northern Italy, and they possessed considerable affluence. The family owned a substantial manufacturing plant that had been established by an antecedent in the 19th century. Carlo had a sole younger sibling, Vera, born in 1934. And then, the Second World War commenced its devastating sweep, impacting them directly and profoundly. Naples was among the most heavily targeted urban centers across all of Italy. A direct strike obliterated the Pisolari factory entirely, extinguishing the family's financial stability overnight. The Peduli family sought refuge in Rome, rationalizing that the proximity of the Vatican and the Pope rendered it a more secure haven. To endure the wartime years, they progressively sold off pieces of the family's heirloom linens. Carlo was 10 years old when the conflict began and 15 when it concluded. However, even amidst the scarcity of wartime conditions, the boy's inherent physical prowess was undeniable. He had become a member of a swimming club at the tender age of 7. By 15, he was besting adults in competitive events. His school's rugby squad clinched a national championship. He ventured into amateur heavyweight boxing and, by his own admission, never sustained a defeat. The war had stripped his family of all their material wealth. It had also cultivated an exceptional physical specimen, a young man destined to attain a stature of nearly 2 meters, with the agility to excel in virtually any sport he embraced. And the discipline he initially selected would etch his name into history. Number 2. The first Italian to surpass the 1-minute mark. Carlo Paduli's aquatic endeavors were not a casual pastime or a trivial detail. They were genuinely of an elite caliber. On September 19, 1950, within the confines of a swimming arena in Salo, the 20-year-old Paduli touched the wall in 59.5 seconds in the 100-meter freestyle race, thus becoming the initial Italian in recorded history to shatter the 1-minute threshold. This accomplishment is validated by the Italian Swimming Federation and the official records of the International Olympic Committee. He participated in the 1952 Helsinki Olympic Games, reaching the semi-final round of the 100-meter freestyle. 4 years later, he returned for the 1956 Melbourne Olympic Games and once again advanced to the semi-finals. In the intervening period between these international competitions, he amassed 14 national accolades, 7 individual swimming championships, 3 junior distinctions, and 4 relay victories. Subsequently, he transitioned to water polo and secured the 1954 Italian championship with the SS Lazio club. Representing the Italian national water polo team, he claimed a gold medal at the 1955 Mediterranean Games held in Barcelona. The Italian Swimming Federation subsequently bestowed upon him the prestigious Caimano d'Oro, the Golden Cayman, in 2005. His son, Giuseppe, would later disclose that his father held his athletic accomplishments in far greater esteem than any of his cinematic roles. The Olympics, Giuseppe recounted, represented perhaps the most jubilant epoch of his father's entire existence. Yet it is here that Carlo Paduli diverges from every other retired athlete who subsequently entered the entertainment sphere. The majority of them embarked directly for Hollywood or the television studios. Paduli, however, ventured into the wilderness. Number 3. 3 continents before his 30th birthday. At a mere 17 years of age, Carlo Paduli enrolled at Sapienza University of Rome to pursue studies in chemistry, positioning him among Italy's youngest university attendees at that juncture. When his family relocated to Brazil in 1947, seeking a fresh start as émigrés, he accompanied them. In Rio de Janeiro, he secured employment at the Italian consulate. He developed a profound affection for Brazilian music, a passion that he carried throughout his remaining years. Returning to Italy around 1948, he made a deliberate shift from chemistry to the study of law. His rationale was entirely pragmatic. Legal coursework afforded him more flexibility for his swimming regimen. He ultimately obtained his law degree from Sapienza, a detail corroborated across numerous obituaries and biographical narratives. Along this trajectory, he attained fluency in no fewer than 6 languages: Italian with a pronounced Neapolitan cadence, Portuguese from his tenure in Brazil, Spanish acquired during his subsequent sojourns in South America, German from formal academic pursuits, and, in addition, English and French. Following the conclusion of his competitive swimming career in 1957, Mr. Paduli made a decision that perplexed all who knew him. He relocated to Venezuela for a period of 3 years, not for leisure, but to assume the role of foreman on the construction of a segment of the Pan-American Highway. He later worked for Alfa Romeo in Caracas. He was a 2-time Olympian, a national hero, a qualified legal professional, and he was willingly engaged in the arduous construction of roads under the South American sun. When questioned about his motivations, his response was disarmingly straightforward. He desired to ascertain whether he possessed courage or cowardice. He was 27 years of age at the time. He still harbored no inclination toward an acting career. Some other influence would eventually draw him towards the cinematic arts, an influence that no one, least of all himself, anticipated. Number 4. The lyricist who declined a future star. In 1960, Carlo Peduli entered into matrimony with Maria Amato. Her father was Giuseppe Amato, one of Italy's most influential film producers, whose distinguished portfolio included Federico Fellini's La Dolce Vita. Through this familial connection, Peduli gained entry into the music industry, subsequently signing with RCA Records to compose and produce traditional Neapolitan and popular songs between 1960 and 1964. He crafted lyrics for established Italian vocalists, including Ornella Vanoni and Nico Fidenco. He also established a musical ensemble named Gli Allegri Ragazzi del Ritmo, the Rhythm Maniacs, who performed in the vibrant nightclubs along Rome's fashionable Via Veneto. And here is a detail that sounds fabricated, but is documented in numerous sources. One day, a young man from the diminutive town of Policoro auditioned with compositions that Peduli deemed utterly dreadful. He was dismissed. That aspiring artist was Domenico Modugno, who would go on to triumph at the Sanremo Music Festival and achieve global acclaim with Volare, one of the most instantly recognizable Italian melodies ever recorded. Carlo Peduli rejected the man who would compose Volare. He then returned to his own songwriting endeavors. Following the passing of his father-in-law in 1964, Peduli transitioned to producing documentaries for Rai, Italy's national television network. He was 35 years old. He had been an Olympian, a law graduate, a construction supervisor in Venezuela, a composer for RCA, and a television producer. Acting remained entirely outside his professional aspirations. That required one further serendipitous occurrence. Number 5. The man who christened himself after a beverage and a performer. In 1967, the Italian director Giuseppe Colizzi was in the process of casting a spaghetti western and sought an individual possessing a formidable physical presence. Someone directed his attention towards the imposing swimmer and songwriter Carlo Peduli. Peduli was 38 years of age, had absolutely no aspiration for an acting career, and accepted the role primarily as a diversion. However, the production necessitated a stage name that would be amenable to an English-speaking audience. Italian appellations were deemed commercially unviable for international westerns. The entire spaghetti western industry operated on the foundation of Americanized pseudonyms. Peduli required a designation that conveyed ruggedness and an Anglo-Saxon origin. He selected his preferred American beer and his most admired American actor. Bud derived from Budweiser, and Spencer from Spencer Tracy. Bud Spencer was thus born. The film was Dio perdona, io no. God forgives, I don't, released in 1967. Spencer anticipated it would be a singular financial transaction. He possessed no formal training, no ambitions in the craft, and harbored no illusions regarding his aptitude. As he expressed years later, "I have no interest in becoming an actor." Yet the camera seemed to favor him. His imposing physique, his gruff demeanor, and his innate comedic timing, stemming from a complete lack of self-consciousness due to his genuine indifference toward the outcome. And then, an event occurred on set that would irrevocably alter European cinema. Not due to any action by Spencer, but because another actor was incapacitated. Then number 6, the most fortuitous fractured foot in cinematic history. The day preceding the commencement of principal photography for Dio Perdona, Io No, the actor slated to perform opposite Spencer, a gentleman named Peter Martell, sustained a leg injury. A last-minute replacement had to be procured. Someone proposed a young performer who had recently adopted his own English-sounding stage name, Mario Girotti, now identifying as Terence Hill. Both Spencer and Hill had, in fact, appeared as uncredited extras in the 1959 sword and sandal epic Annibale, without ever crossing paths. Now united by a broken limb and a compressed timeline, they discovered something neither could articulate nor replicate with any other individual. The rapport was instantaneous and effortless. Hill was agile, quick, blue-eyed and boyish. Spencer was massive, unhurried, gruff and ursine, and collectively they presented a visual juxtaposition so perfect that it scarcely necessitated dialogue. Hill later reminisced that their interactions felt entirely intuitive. Scenes that typically demanded multiple retakes were successfully completed on the initial attempt. Spencer characteristically downplayed the phenomenon, stating, "Since I never studied to be an actor, I was more instinctive." They collaborated on 2 additional films with Kolidze. The partnership gained popularity, but no one, neither the studio nor the critics, nor the performers themselves, was prepared for what transpired next. Number 7. The film that eclipsed La Dolce Vita in earnings. In 1970, director Enzo Barboni selected Spencer and Hill for a low-budget comedic western titled Lo chiamavano Trinità. They Call Me Trinity. Spencer portrayed Bambino, a hulking, perpetually exasperated horse thief who communicated primarily through grunts, smacks, and prodigious platters of beans. Hill embodied Trinity, his indolent, wisecracking younger sibling who happened to possess the swiftest draw in the West. The film was produced with a modest budget. It ascended to become the highest-grossing Italian film of its era, surpassing Fellini's La Dolce Vita at the Italian box office. Its success was entirely unexpected. The sequel, Continuavano a chiamarlo Trinità, Trinity is Still My Name, released in 1971, achieved even greater commercial triumph. It sold approximately 14.5 million tickets in Italy alone. In Germany, it sold in excess of 12 million tickets, positioning it as the 7th most successful motion picture in German box office history at that time. Globally, it garnered over $30 million. It remains among the top 5 most attended Italian films ever produced. What rendered the Trinity films revolutionary was their distinctive tone. The spaghetti western genre had been characterized by Sergio Leone's operatic violence, Clint Eastwood's stoic gazes through gunsmoke, and Ennio Morricone's scores swelling to apocalyptic crescendos. Spencer and Hill completely discarded such conventions. Their confrontations were slapstick ballets. No one perished, no one bled. As a colossal individual delivered open-handed blows to incapacitate adversaries, while a grinning trickster executed lightning-fast punches, the audience convulsed with laughter. Spencer's signature maneuver, the devastating open palm strike to the face and the hammer-like fist to the crown of the skull, became so iconic that it defined an entire subgenre of family-friendly action comedy across Europe. The accompanying sound effects alone are recognizable to millions. Over the subsequent 3 decades, Spencer and Hill collaborated on 17 or 18 films, depending on the source consulted. Their final joint venture was Botte di Natale, Christmas Kickbox, in 1994. In nearly 50 years of working together, they never experienced a solitary disagreement, not even one. Number 8. The actor who established an airline and held 12 patents. Had Bud Spencer been solely an Olympic swimmer who transitioned into acting, he would already stand as one of cinema's most unconventional figures. However, the man simply could not refrain from engaging in diverse pursuits. Well after filming Bombarolo, All the Way Boys, in 1972, a comedy in which he and Hill portrayed bush pilots in Colombia, Spencer was so captivated by aviation that he obtained his commercial airline pilot's license and his helicopter pilot's license. He logged over 2,000 hours piloting fixed-wing aircraft and 500 hours in helicopters. He characterized flying as the paramount passion of his life for over 35 years, surpassing even swimming and filmmaking. On October 29, 1981, he founded Mistral Air, a legitimate aviation enterprise. It commenced operations in 1984 as an airmail service and expanded to include passenger flights, securing contracts with the Vatican to transport Catholic pilgrims to Lourdes, Fatima, Santiago de Compostela, Israel, Poland, and Mexico. Spencer ultimately divested his ownership of the company through a series of acquisitions. It was subsequently absorbed by Poste Italiane, Italy's national postal service, and rebranded as Post Air Cargo in 2019. The airline founded by Bud Spencer now handles Italy's postal deliveries and remains operational today. He also possessed 12 patents. Among his inventions were a walking stick equipped with a collapsible table and chair, an electric toy mouse, and a disposable toothbrush with integrated toothpaste. His proudest innovation was an early concept for a battery-powered automobile, an electric vehicle prototype that proved too substantial to be practical. Years later, observing the ascent of Tesla and other electric vehicles, he noted with satisfaction that the fundamental idea had been correct all along. He once impulsively acquired an airstrip in Atlanta during a film shoot, comprising a 2-kilometer dirt runway with a windsock and a modest office, with the intention of constructing aircraft there. 2 FBI agents appeared almost immediately, suspecting illicit drug trafficking. He also purchased a 36-meter tugboat that he never navigated beyond the harbor at Porto Santo Stefano. This was a man who simply could not remain inactive. Number 9. More celebrated in Germany than in his native land. Herein lies perhaps the most extraordinary chapter of the Bud Spencer narrative. In Germany, he was not merely famous, he was a phenomenon. The reason extends beyond the films themselves. When Spencer and Hill's movies were dubbed into German, the voice actors, led by a gentleman named Rainer Brandt, did not simply translate the dialogue. They effectively rewrote it. They incorporated humor, linguistic wordplay, and cultural allusions that rendered the German versions considerably more amusing than the original Italian productions. The consequence was that German audiences experienced a portrayal of Bud Spencer that in certain respects constituted an entirely different character, and they adored him even more for it. The cultural penetration was extraordinary. The verb Bud Spencern entered German slang, signifying the act of physically subduing a group of individuals in a superior and somewhat comical fashion. When the city of Schwäbisch Gmünd solicited public suggestions for the naming of a new tunnel, Bud Spencer Tunnel emerged as the victor of the public poll. The municipal council reached a compromise by naming their public swimming facility the Bud Spencer Bad in 2011. Spencer attended the ceremony in person at the precise venue where he had triumphed in a swimming competition 60 years prior. A Bud Spencer Museum opened on Berlin's renowned Unter den Linden Boulevard in 2021, exhibiting 500 square meters of memorabilia from the private collection of the Peduli family, including the iconic Volkswagen Dune buggy from the film Altrimenti ci arrabbiamo. Watch out, we're mad. In Budapest, a larger-than-life bronze statue was unveiled in 2017. In Hungary, the films held particular significance during the communist era. They were among the scarce Western productions that authorities permitted. Fans explained it simply. Spencer and Hill consistently championed the underdog against corrupt institutions. Fan conventions in Germany grew from an attendance of 150 individuals to 4,000 by 2019. Across France, Greece, the Netherlands, Eastern Europe, and throughout South America, Spencer and Hill were household names. In the United States, they remained virtually unknown. This never appeared to trouble Spencer in the slightest. Number 10. The gentle giant who could not perceive his own fight sequences. The disparity between Bud Spencer on screen and Carlo Peduli in his private life was vast. His son, Giuseppe, provided the most intimate portrayal in a 2024 interview, describing his father as the least disciplinary individual imaginable. Spencer only ever struck his son once, a singular tap on the leg, throughout his entire life. Giuseppe stated that his father maintained an almost childlike imagination until the day he passed away at 87 years of age. He once presented his son with a pen capable of writing upside down, explaining with absolute sincerity, "Astronauts use it." Spencer was severely myopic. He wore thick spectacles, which he invariably removed before filming, meaning he could barely discern his surroundings during his own legendary combat scenes. He adamantly refused to utilize a stunt double. He once mistook a soft drink vending machine button at an airport for the elevator call button. His appetite was legendary. If you gave him 2 kilos of pasta, he could consume it all, Giuseppe recalled. He traveled universally with spaghetti, olive oil, and tomatoes. He once topped pasta with cornflakes. His relationship with Terence Hill was both more intimate and more distant than anyone could comprehend. Spencer addressed Hill as Mario, his given name, and was the sole individual on Earth who continued to do so. However, away from the set, they were 2 immense, reserved men who barely knew how to interact socially. Giuseppe estimated they dined together perhaps 3 times in their entire lives. Hill resided in America. Periodically, he would visit for Maria's spaghetti dinners. But on camera, something transformed. Genuine emotion existed between them, a harmony that emerged from an unknown source and dissipated the moment the director called cut. Neither man could explain it, nor did they ever attempt to replicate it with anyone else. Spencer married Maria Amato in 1960, and they remained united for 56 years until his passing. They were blessed with 3 children, Giuseppe, Cristiana, and Diamante. His daughter Cristiana later authored a book about him titled Bud, un gigante per padre. Bud, a giant for a father. He published 4 books of his own, including a best-selling autobiography that topped the charts in Germany. He stood for political office once, recruited by Silvio Berlusconi to run as a Forza Italia candidate in 2005. His campaign announcement was pure Bud Spencer. "In my life, I've done everything. There are only 3 things I haven't been: a ballet dancer, a jockey, and a politician. Given that the first two are out of the question, I'll throw myself into politics. He did not win the election. On June 27, 2016, Carlo Peduli passed away in Rome. He was 86 years old. His final utterance was, "Grazie," meaning, "thank you." When Terence Hill learned of his partner's demise, he was situated in Almeria, Spain, the precise location where they had first encountered each other 49 years prior. "After the sorrow and pain came a great calm," Hill stated, "because I realized that nothing happens by chance." At the memorial service held at Rome's Church of the Artists, mourners spontaneously began singing the theme song from Altrimenti ci arrabbiamo as the coffin was borne out. The man who consistently maintained he was merely a character and not an actor had prompted an entire continent to sing. Here is what endures about Carlo Peduli. He was a boy whose family lost everything in the bombing of Naples, an Olympian swimmer who shattered national records, a law graduate who commanded 6 languages, a songwriter who turned away Domenico Modugno, a road constructor in Venezuela who was testing his own mettle, a man who stumbled into acting at the age of 38 because someone else fractured a foot. He adopted his moniker from a particular brew and a dramatic performer, inadvertently ascending to become one of the continent's most recognizable visages. This individual established an aviation company, secured 12 distinct patents, penned literary works that topped bestseller lists, and piloted aircraft for 3.5 decades. Despite requiring spectacles to perceive his surroundings, he eschewed the use of a stand-in for his daring physical feats. He could consume 2 kilograms of pasta in a single meal, face defeat in a bid for public office, and impulsively purchased an airfield, an acquisition that subsequently drew the attention of the Federal Bureau of Investigation. Throughout these diverse experiences, he consistently delivered open-handed strikes to adversaries, consumed prodigious quantities of legumes, and brought mirth to 3 successive generations, eliciting tears of laughter. Remarkably, by all accounts, he was also considered one of the kindest individuals to have ever walked the earth. Which of his accomplishments or anecdotes resonated most with you? Were you most astonished by his Olympic swimming achievements, the establishment of the airline that continues to handle Italy's postal services, his decision to decline the individual who possessed 12 patents, or the revelation that his vision was impaired during his own on-screen combat sequences? Share your thoughts with us in the comments section. Kindly express your appreciation by liking, sharing, and subscribing for further narratives concerning genuine individuals who led extraordinary existences. Your positive engagement with this video is greatly appreciated and significantly aids our channel's expansion. Thank you for your viewership.